Hi everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm doing another video. Where is she? About Riley. Gosh, I can't even see her in that freaking pillow. This video is going to be talking about like the number one thing no one tells you about owning a dog. It's not clickbait. This is really the number one thing that I heard from almost nobody, and it was honestly the most valuable thing I had when getting a dog. So subscribe if you aren't already, like this video, follow me on Instagram, follow Riley on Instagram, and let's jump in to it. So you're wondering, what is the number one thing? Training. And that sounds a little ridiculous, but I think there is this stigma around dog training or training your dog in a like structured setting. I have a ton of friends with dogs. I have a ton of friends who grew up with dogs or had dogs growing up, and I only had one friend who's actually like an old boss of mine who took his dogs to training. And I know even when I started doing training, I think my roommate was confused by it because she grew up with dogs and her dogs never went to like professional training. And yeah, I think there's just this stigma that it's like a waste of money that you can like train your dogs at home through YouTube videos and whatever. But I want to break that stigma and kind of tell you why I think you should do professional or structured training. One of the main reasons that I started training with my dog was because I have never owned a dog in my whole entire life. I got Riley when I was 22. I'm 24 now, and my dad was severely allergic to dogs growing up. He still is. Like, he can't live with a dog. Like, he can hang out with Riley and be around Riley, but the second he is like in my apartment where there's carpet and so much dog hair in it, he can't really breathe. So I never had a dog growing up, and needless to say, the first 24 hours of having Riley was traumatizing. I had no idea what I was doing. I had just moved into this apartment like 7 days before, and I just had no idea what I was doing. My parents couldn't really help me because they had also not had a dog in 23 years. My mom grew up with dogs, and my dad had dogs before he like realized his allergy. And yeah, they just weren't, they were like morally and physically there, but they just didn't have any real advice for me. I was really, really lucky that I went to PetSmart the day after I got Riley, and I met my trainer, Bryce, and he was super friendly and super helpful, and he asked if I wanted to join their class that was starting that night, and I did. And that was literally the day after I got Riley. It was Martin Luther King Day, and that is when we started training. So that Monday on Martin Luther King Day, we started our first day of beginning or puppy training at PetSmart. I think that there's nothing wrong with going to PetSmart or Petco for training. It's super accessible for everyone. There's probably a Petco or a PetSmart or something extremely similar near to you wherever you are. And all their classes are super like straightforward and basic, and although you're not getting as much like personal attention with them, it's about how much you put into it, not about what they're really doing for you, I think. So I am a PetSmart stan, but I think Petco also offers training. Riley and I did all of the training classes that PetSmart offers, all the way from puppy/beginner training up to the therapy dog training and the tricks training. So we did all of them. And just again, being fully transparent, I want to tell you guys also the cost that's associated with training. We did all the classes, which is 100% not necessary or even needed in any way. But each 6-week course costs $120 per like session. So 6 weeks for $120. And to me, that's a steal, because that was an hour every day or every week for 6 weeks that I got to sit down and dedicate to Riley, and we got to do something for her. And it helped both of us. So I think it's really worth it. I especially think it's when you're buying or, when you're adopting a dog for the first time, there's so many expenses that go into that first, haul of things that $120 is really going to be a good investment for at least one class. I think my opinion is that you should at least take beginner and intermediate. I think those classes are like essential. You learn so much in them. And I wrote a whole blog post about breaking down every class we took, my thoughts on them, what we learned. So I'm going to link that blog post down below because I think it's honestly more helpful than what I'm going to riddle off to you right now. Why do I think everyone should do training? What are my biggest takeaways? I have a whole sticky full of them for you that I'm going to go over. My roommate also has a dog, Sadie, and one of the big things when she got a dog was I was like, gotta go to training. Gotta go to training. And she definitely agreed and like obviously saw all the awesome work that was done with Riley in training, and so she also went to training. And I think these are both things that we both feel were really great takeaways from training and things that we learned that we wouldn't have learned if we were just training our dog by ourselves. So the first one is you're able to ask yourself, why would your dog do that? And that sounds really simplistic, but it's not. Something I learned really later on, I think even in the advanced class, was one thing my trainer always talked about was your dog should sit at a door before you enter the door, because then, you know, if they get off their leash and they're running home, they'll just like sit at the door and they won't do anything else. And so I was really dedicated to getting Riley to sit at my front door in every door we entered into. And so I started doing that, and she would sit at my parents' front door, my parents' front gate. When I would take her to work with me, she would sit at that door. She'd sit at every freaking door except for my front door when I was bringing her home from walks. And so it finally like hit me when I was in training one day. I'm like, she doesn't want to sit because she doesn't want the fun to be over. She doesn't want to go in the house because the house is not as fun as it is outside. And that all really got affirmed for me when we got Sadie, because now she sits at the front door because when she goes through the door, Sadie's there and it's fun. So you can learn things like that I feel like, you know, when your dog doesn't do something or isn't getting something, it's not because they're dumb. There's definitely a reason, and you can learn things about your dog. Like Riley just wanted to be outside and be on walks all the time. She didn't want to be inside, and the inside wasn't fun. So that was the biggest takeaway I think I had from training. The second thing that I learned in training is that dogs don't really understand special occasions. So like they don't understand that, okay, I cannot sit on the couch every day except for my birthday. On my birthday, I'm allowed to sit on the couch, but every other day I'm not. You have to be so consistent with your dog, and that's honestly so difficult. For me, that really translated to when I ended up bringing my dad to training with me, because if Riley wasn't with me, she was with my dad at his house, and we weren't doing similar things because I was talking to her or being with her like how I was trained to in training, and my dad wouldn't, and he wouldn't know what those things were that we were working on. So he ended up coming to training with us, and I think that made all the difference. That, you know, going to my dad's house, although he still doesn't do everything perfectly, it was less of a special occasion, and she could still like understand that, okay, like, you know, we're always in this mode of doing the right thing. So dogs don't understand special occasions. Consistency is everything. The third thing that I think I learned was that your dog doesn't need to be good at everything, just at things that are important to you. So going through all of these classes, I think you learn a lot. These classes are packed with content, and especially in tricks and advanced, you learn a lot of things that you maybe don't need all the time or isn't as important to you. So for me, like having Riley heel like wasn't that important to me. We did get it and we worked on it and we did some things in heel, but I never really fully understood heel. It didn't make sense to me, so that wasn't something that was really important to me. So right now, like Riley hasn't been in class for a really long time and she doesn't know how to heel, and that's fine. For me, there was a lot of things like that were really important to me. So like my trainer helping me teach Riley how to not jump out of the car when I'm opening the door, or teaching Riley to wait at stoplights, or like waiting like to cross the street, or you know, coming to me when she was called, like every time consistently, or when I say her name to look at me, like that kind of stuff was really important to me, mainly for like the safety of like me and her in all scenarios. Like one time I had this leash that when she was younger, or like when I first got her, she used to chew on it, And one day I was walking her and the leash snapped, and she was like running and it snapped while she was running. And so I like yelled for her. I was like, Riley, stop, come here, like you want to like a treat? And she stopped right away, dead in her tracks. And she like walked back with me to the house. And that in that moment, all of the training was worth it. Another thing for training that we learned is that training is really useful, the classes itself and going with your dog, to be able to understand how your dog reacts to situations and being like more intuitive about your dog. So like I know when Riley starts to see a dog or like is getting uncomfortable, she like a line goes in between her eyebrows like every time. And so I like usually like scrub it out because I'm like, it's okay, like that's your like where she holds her stress, I think. And so that was something that I was able to learn because we were in this class every week for an hour, with me just staring and watching her. And I was able to see how she reacted to people walking up and dogs walking up. And even one time my trainer put on a lab coat and like a motorcycle helmet and walked over to every dog, and we got to like see how they reacted and stuff like that. I think it just makes you way more intuitive about your dog and understanding how to communicate with them that makes most sense to them. So like most dogs, if you're getting mad and you're yelling like, come here, like, why are you doing that? Or like, up, like drop the towel, like whatever it is, they're not gonna do it because you're not happy or you're not exciting. And why would they come to you if you weren't happy or excited? It's a really hard thing to get, but I think training like really helps that. Like it doesn't make it better. Like I still get mad at Riley and I still yell at her and I do things that I know are wrong, but I know they're wrong. So I can fix them and work on them, and you know, it doesn't happen every time. So that's extremely useful. The last thing I want to talk about is one of, I think, my soapbox things for training, which is that it exposes your dog. And I know a lot of people whose dogs don't leave their house or don't go in the car unless they're going to the vet. If the dog only knows the inside of the four walls of your house and just knows your neighborhood, then that's the life you've chosen for your dog, I guess. And that's fine. Like I think a lot of family dogs are like that. But for Riley, and I think for people who are younger and in their 20s, you're wanting to take your dog with you places. You're wanting to go on hikes. You're wanting to go on road trips. You're wanting to take them to parks. You're wanting to take them to parties at your friend's house. And so that was a really big thing with training, was that it gave me the ability to expose Riley safely to a lot of things. And also like in many different situations, I knew what to do because I had also been trained to do these things or know these things or how to approach different situations because of training. And that is something that I think is so important, is I know how to control Riley in most situations, like almost all, because the things you learn can be applied to so many different times. So that is my biggest takeaway from training. The closing thought for this video is always to remember that training is definitely for your dog, but it's also for you. If you've never owned a dog, I think it's a great security blanket to go and be with other dog owners every hour or every week for an hour, and you learn a ton about your dog and yourself. And yeah, it's just as much for you as it is for them. So definitely give training a go. That is all the big takeaways I have for you in this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. I would love to see you guys around. I'm also going to link some more videos I've made about Riley, including the story of what I got her, which was really cute. And that's everything. I will see you guys in my next video.
Making it brighter, right through the gray.